Nisquatum Nation and the multi-millennial presence of the Pasquayaqui tribe within Pima County. Consistent with Pima County's commitment to diversity and inclusion, we strive toward building equal partner relationships with Arizona's tribal nations.
Thank you, Supervisor Scott. So now we're on county budget. Item 4. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
I do not at this time.
Okay, great. I'll call on you later. So we're going to move to 5, department budget presentations. First up this afternoon is Development Services.
Thank you, Supervisor Grijalva. Thank you, Supervisors. Glad to be here. My name is Carla Blackwell. I'm Director of Development Services. And I'll briefly describe what Development Services does, although we've interacted with just about everybody on the board. Development Services, first of all, oversees the management of the comprehensive plan. This is a 10-year document that lays out a long-range plan for land use and for policies. And just a FYI on that, it will be updated in 2025, so in the next budget cycle, we plan to have money set aside for the update of that plan.
Great.
We also manage Title 18, which is the zoning code, as well as other building codes. And because we manage the zoning code, we are involved in quite a few policy initiatives that are looking to change the code constantly. Some of the changes that we're working on right now involve infill incentive districts. We're on the participating on the Affordable Housing Task Force. We have a code text amendment out on the streets right now for input on recreational marijuana to change up our code. We are also working on some water policy initiatives, revising the outdoor lighting code, as well as working on some planning for the Southeast Logistics Center, which is the fairgrounds area. We're doing long-range planning on that. We also have a planning division that has casework such as rezonings, variances, modifications to setbacks, some of the Board of Adjustment cases. And we have, just to give you an idea of the activity level, the case reviews in planning were up 48% this year over last year. So that's just in the number of reviews. One of our core businesses is building permitting and building inspections. And that has been up overall 24%, as we remarked in the budget document, for all permit types, which is commercial, alterations, as well as new building. But just in looking at recent numbers on single-family permits, new single-family permits are up 14% through May from this time last year. We also have a site review division, and they look at subdivision plats, development plans. They do all of the coordination with some of our other public works departments on transportation and sewer, and all of that is incorporated into their reviews and looking at site development. So we also have taken over subdivision inspections from DOT, where we're going out and watching the road construction and subdivisions, as well as all the grading. We contract with DEQ each year through a memorandum of agreement to do all of our code enforcement. So DEQ actually will send the inspectors out to do zoning and building code enforcement, but we coordinate with them pretty closely. It's been a challenge over the last couple of years to handle this increased workload, but we are still meeting our 5-day turnaround time in almost all cases. On some of the more complex projects, we've had to extend it out a little bit, but timeliness is probably one of the most valued commodities in our customers, and so we feel very proud that we have the most timeliness in our reviews in the region. We also have an excellent staff that very easily adapted to telecommuting, and in fact, we still do a lot of telecommuting because we are a paperless organization. Everything is submitted to us electronically, and we actually found that people are more productive in the quiet of their own home, working at their computers there. So it's really worked out for us. We have, of course, a lot of through our permitting system, we're able to do a lot of workload monitoring. So when we see one person get behind or another person get a little overwhelmed, we're able to shift that workload very easily in order to keep our time frames. We are an enterprise fund, and so that means that all the increased activity has generated a lot of increased revenue. So we have a very healthy cash balance. And some of you will recall from last year that when our surplus cash in our enterprise fund exceeds our budget needs by quite a bit, we're able then to reduce our fees. So this year we will be reducing our fees 5%. And then in future years, if that cash reserve ever dips down, then it'll kick in an automatic increase in fees. But for now, for July 1, we will be reducing 5% fee cut across the board. We have had our challenges, just like all the other departments, so I'm not going to repeat the challenges in recruitment and retention. But the faster the salary study could get done, the better for us. We had 2 positions filled where the people were with us about 3 to 4 months and then got better offers. And so we're losing new recruits to better offers or old employers coming back and enticing them back. So we're really hoping that the salary studies would take a look at some of the categories. We've had extreme difficulty recruiting for inspectors, and we think that inspector positions is probably one of the positions that needs to be looked at. We find ourselves constantly in competition with the private development industry, so we're competing with the same skill set. So hopefully the salary study will help mediate that. The other thing that because we're electronic and paperless, the website is our front door now to most of our customers. And we're finding it very difficult for them to navigate to the proper permits, to the proper information. So I was so happy to hear Mark Evans inform everybody yesterday that Pima.gov is going to be revamped, because that has been a big hindrance to us. The other things that we're going to be looking at in the coming year to help alleviate some of our staffing issues, we're looking to do some flexible staffing. And when I say flexible staffing, you'll notice that in our budget we have some part-time positions. Those part-time positions have been set up to ease people who are retiring. We're losing a lot of brain drain right now with some of our senior plans examiners who are aging out. And so we want to be able to offer them a position to come back part-time and help us out. And that has been attractive to a couple of people. So we have been able to bring back a couple of retired people to help us out, especially over during some of these workload periods where we're overwhelmed. The other thing that we continually look at is leveraging technology. And we announced last year this time that we were launching Solar App, which is a way to automate solar permitting and automate the review. And after a year of that being in place, it has actually saved us 4,380 hours of staff time that would have been spent reviewing residential solar permits. Also, we're getting ready to launch ViewSpec, which will automate and make more seamless our inspection process and make it easier for customers to not only schedule inspections, but make it easier for inspectors to result them and have them automatically go into our permit system. We are scanning some commercial permits, some really old ones that right now we have to pull out of boxes and unroll plan sets. We're able to put those on OnBase, and that'll help customers then be able to do their own research. And the other thing that is in our budget is we've set aside $100,000 in software to create a new permit portal. And that is a way to start to have our customers be able to actually initiate permits into our system and initiate the right permits with the right information. Right now, they basically have to send everything to us via email, and then we have to transfer it into our permit system. So that's the one initiative we're working on in the up and coming year. Are there any questions?
Colleagues, any questions? Supervisor Christie.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
It's just supervisors.
Super. Carla, we've talked about this before, and as you pointed out, we've interacted quite a bit, as you have with the whole board, but I just have to say from District 4, we are immensely appreciative of you and your staff for your responsiveness, your willingness to help, your enthusiasm about helping, and for resolving any issues in such a timely and very quick and efficient manner. And all I can say is from our staff and from our office and from me personally, thank you so much for all you do for our county and for our constituents, and a job very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. That's
Absolutely.
great.
Any other questions?
Supervisor Hall.
Supervisor Scott.
Thank you. Ms. Blackwell, in the last sentence of major departmental issues, is it the consulting contractors that are referenced? Are those the part-time positions that you were referring to in your presentation, or is that something different?
Supervisor Grijalva, Supervisor Scott. That is actually one of our subdivision inspectors. We had 2 openings. One we did fill about 3 months ago, so we could let one of the contracted employees off, but we still have the other position filled through a consultant contract that we're paying over $100 an hour. Yes. But we've had that position under recruitment for almost a year. So we're going to be working with HR to figure out how do we, not only better up our recruitment strategies, but also that's one of the areas where I think we're just not competitive pay-wise.
Thank you. And then just to clarify the contracting relationship you have with DEQ, we start with you and then you follow up with DEQ? Kind of like the situation I brought to your attention yesterday. And thank you for emailing me after hours, by the way.
Supervisor Grijalva, Supervisor Scott. Actually, there's no wrong door on code complaints because we work very closely with DEQ and Barbara and Jackie and her staff. So sometimes it involves Tom and Chris deciding, well, is this a code complaint even first? Okay. So no wrong door.
All right. Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next is environmental quality. I think we need theme music for everyone should decide. It's just so quiet. Yeah, we could always have mariachis anytime. I'm happy to. Hello.
Hello. I'm sure. Can you hear me okay?
Welcome. Yes, we can hear you.
Good afternoon. Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors.
She's here somewhere.
She's there somewhere in the virtual world. So I'm Barbara Escobar. I'm the newly appointed Director of PDEQ. And I'll start with the biggest challenge is we lost the DD, the Deputy Director, and the Director for PDEQ in the last few months, right? So I replaced Richard Grimaldi in August of last year, and Ursula Nelson retired in January. So I was interim, and now, Ursula, retirement, she's in Granada in Spain right now, so she's enjoying the retirement.
That's great.
Yeah. So just to give a little background from on the program itself or the department, again, I've only been with the department since August of last year, so I've been through a lot of, learning a lot about the department. And I'll tell you still, and I tell everybody this, is the biggest thing for me was coming in and realizing how, what a small department it was, and yet how much they do. And I know everybody will be like, the staff works really hard, but I'm really shocked at how much is getting done in this department. So I'm going to go over a little bit about the department, the way it's run. And so under DEQ, we have two divisions. We have the Department of Environmental Quality Division, and then we have Solid Waste Division. So the Solid Waste Division is the division where we have our landfills and our transfer stations, and they do the tire management program and the tire fund. So the tires that get recycled up on Ina Road, they're the ones that manage that program. So, and in that group, you have several hydrologists in that, and they're monitoring the different sites at the different landfills, ensuring that, whatever contaminants might be possible, they'll actually be analyzing and having a contractor look at things. They're ensuring that we have all of the right permits that are required for the various locations. So they also have in that area our environmental compliance staff, that they're the ones that go out with DOT and ensure that the DOT sites, when they're doing the construction on the road repairs, that they're actually meeting environmental requirements as well. So they work closely with DOT on those environmental, reviews, but also they work really closely with RWD, mainly because of the location. There's a lot of coordination with that group as well. So then when you come over to the environmental quality side, with the 7th floor, right on the B of A where you guys run into us, we have the air quality program. It's huge. Our air quality program does all of the permitting for the various businesses they monitor. They do they license the permits, they review them. We have a lot of engineers that are going through those. As you know, BD permit was a big issue, and we are hoping to have that done by the 16th, May 16th. We didn't go with Friday the 13th. We're going with May 16th, which is a Monday, to finalize that permit. And but we have lots of other permits that we're having to deal with, the different sources. And so that's a group that handles quite a bit of different facility reviews. They work with the businesses. They work sometimes with the public health department to ask questions, on some of the things. They've worked with, I think another thing that was kind of astounding to me is how closely we work with EPA and ADEQ. They're constantly going back and forth on permits to determine that we're writing those up according to the standards and the regulations that are required, because we have the delegated authority, whether it's through the state, the ADEQ, or through the EPA federally. So that's how we ensure that we're actually meeting the requirements. So we definitely have a lot of contact with them all the time. That group also has the air monitoring sites. So all of the different monitors that we have throughout the city that are monitoring the different contaminants, that group has 14 monitoring sites, I believe, and they're constantly, we have environmental analysts and data managers, and what they do is they collect all of that data. They're ensuring that our instruments are calibrated properly, that we have the standards, that the data looks reasonable, and all that ends up being, being public for the people to all see on the Air Now, websites and things like that. So it's really important. On our PDEQ website, you can go there to determine, so you can see air quality every day. So it's important that we keep that information accurate. And let's see. Then we have the water program. Our water program is water and waste. So we have public water systems that are regulated, and we, again, very close connection with the drinking water program out of ADEQ. So we're monitoring this, all of the smaller water systems that are providing water. And that's a very important, area. We want to make sure that anybody who's got a well, that the data is, that the water quality is acceptable for people to be drinking it. And if there's any issues, if there's any lab results that aren't where they should be, coliform results, that they're doing boil advisories, or that they're shutting down the well, or that they're fixing it. So we recently decided to add a senior program manager to that division, program, so that we can ensure that we have the staffing that's required for that. And ADEQ has actually been asking us to do a lot more documentation and review of certain things. There's a consumer confidence report, and there's a total coliform, and then I think they're going to start looking at lead and copper. So we definitely have to ensure that we have the right staffing levels, that we're completing our work. The water program also does the plans reviews for the septic systems, not the plan reviews for septic, the water systems. If there's they have to determine that a business that has the water, whether it's through a well or through drinking water, but they also have to ensure that they have sewer. So do they have a sewer way to get to the sewer system, or do they actually use a septic on-site treatment system? And that was another thing that was shocking to me, is how many on-site treatment facilities there are throughout the county, which are septic systems. So we have inspectors that go out and do the inspections of the septic tanks to make sure that they're not leaking, make sure that they're proper, things like that. And so, again, they also do aquatic facility inspections, plan reviews. So when Carla earlier was saying that there's a lot of plan review and at work with the DSD, their plan review people look at all of that, and then we go do inspections when they're going to, apply a new system there. Let's see, water. They also do hazardous waste reporting. Any business that has hazardous waste reporting under the RCRA, which is Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, if they're going to be reporting as a conditionally exempt quantity generator or a large quantity generator, our staff is going out there and ensuring that they're actually reporting properly to ADEQ, or if they have any questions, we support them. And I'm trying to think, anything else in that group? Septic, that's it. So it's a lot that's got under the water and waste program. Oh, they do septic hauler and septic hauler reviews, inspections, and then what we also have is that zone and code inspection group that, again, Carla was talking about earlier. So her group actually determines the plans of certain areas, but then our staff will sometimes go out and do inspections of the various plan reviews. I'm sorry. Just a little. I'm trying to think of what it was, the plan reviews. Oh, so, okay. So under the zoning code, what they do is they actually are going to all of the different locations so that people are complaining. If there's a complaint of zone, that if the DSD staff aren't going to do it, then our staff will go out and do the inspections. And then they will also do air inspections. They're also going out and doing all of the permittees. They're going to do the inspections and ensure that they're meeting the permit requirements. Let's see what else. And it's surprising. I mean, I'm amazed at how many complaints are received by the group and how many they actually have to, respond to. So I'd like to at some point add more inspectors for the zoning code area. Let's see what else. Then we have our public outreach group, and they do a lot. They have a lot of different things going on with under the different grants that we have. We have the voluntary no drive day programs. We have the lawn and garden. I think many of you have probably seen the commercials of replacing your lawn and garden equipment, that's fuel, and start using the batteries so it lower the emissions. And one thing with PDEQ is that we have a lot of grants, and a lot of people think grant is great because it's free money, but it's actually a lot of work. You have a lot of reports that you have to provide, whether they're annual or semi-annual, a lot of documentation. But we definitely have several for either instrumentation, or there are going to be for lab staffing. So we have quite a few grants there. Public outreach, they recently did like a lot of events recently in the spring. They did the Cyclovia, they did the Earth Day events, they did, what was the other events that they'd had? They try to do events for biking to work, really promote the no driving to work. And one grant that I wanted to point out is that we put in for a grant recently because what they're trying to do is attract more site monitors, different locations, and so a grant was put in to actually put air monitorings at different schools and actually work with the students to become like citizen scientists. The students will actually be the ones looking at the data and reviewing it, and along with the air quality flag program to go, to decide whether, it's good, and they're also, what's the other thing? Idling. They really want to push no idling at the schools. There's too many people, the parents are standing around, or standing in their cars, sitting in their cars, waiting for their children. They're just idling. So they're really trying to push to stop the idling there. So, one thing two big successes on the air program that I wanted to point out is the combined air emissions reporting system. It was a big thing for PDEQ to get this done, completed, is where the class 1 sources can report electronically into a system rather than actually sending Excel spreadsheets to us that we actually have to enter the data. What happens is they're actually reporting electronically directly into a system, and then that data gets reviewed by our engineers, and if it's good to go, it's good. There's no massaging of data, the way they call it, or manipulation of data. It's their data. It's been good, and now that they can use that data to do several reports that they need to do. I think there's different ones, like a greenhouse gas report, toxic release report. There's about 3 different areas that those reports are going to go to, so that's a really good thing. And the other thing is we went into a general permit, an umbrella. It's in a general permit for various generators, and the good thing about that is that you don't have an individualized permit for each business. So if you have an emergency generator out on your site, it's going to be the same permit like the other business that has a generator. And so it makes it very easy, so you have all these different permittees under one permit rather than trying to write one permit for each individual one. So it saves a lot of time, and they can certainly dedicate more time to other things. So that's it. I think the biggest, like I was saying, the biggest challenge has been the need to replace the deputy and now, or the director and now the deputy director. That's going to be challenging. We do have 5 recruitments going on right now, I believe. We had our meeting this morning. So we're well on our way with recruitments. So if you look on the vacancy report, we actually have several of them going through right now. So hopefully to be completed very quickly. But yeah, I think everybody has the recruitment and retainment issues that everybody's having. So I think that would be it. Again, I just wanted to reiterate again, it's a great department. I'm surprised at how much gets done. There's always a lot to do and a lot to review, and it's really exciting about that. And again, we work with a lot of departments. I've mentioned DSD, I've mentioned DOT, Public Health, of course, Finance and Procurement, and the grants group help us tremendously. We work very closely with them, but we also work with communications. One thing I'm kind of really excited about with DEQ, because I'm just coming into it, is really the branding. Is that we need to change a lot of our reports. When I came in, that I saw we're going to ADEQ, would have a cover of, I don't know, a snake in the desert. And it was like, why aren't we using communications to do a cover on this report? They're like, why are we putting snakes on these covers? And it was nice. And I think, too, some people want to use some of the great pictures that they've taken, and there's some amazing photographers in the DEQ section, but we do have to stick with branding, and we do need to look. And I'm really looking forward to kind of, tapping into their bilingual forms, because of all of our different, like, notice of violations or authorized to correct all of those. I'd like to have them in Spanish, so that when they go out and are dealing with a citizen that doesn't speak English, and yes, we have inspectors that are out there that can speak to them in Spanish of what the issue is, but it would be nice to actually give them one of the forms in Spanish so they understand it, and it's not just in English. So we're really looking at all of the different forms that we have internally, but then also the outreach. And I think, one thing I did not want to forget is environmental justice. That's really big right now with the EPA, and we're trying to make it big within EDQ in the sense that we're still learning. We're attending webinars and we're doing training because we want to get this right. I think for me, the biggest challenge with the environmental justice part is that EPA is telling us what the demographics we should be looking at when we're going to issue a permit, but they don't tell us that we can change the permit in any way based on the impact that they're having on that community. And so that's an important thing that I kind of need to figure out. How do you actually make changes if it's impacting a community that's been through enough already, whether it's because of PFAS or whether it's beryllium or whatever it's been that they've been through. I want to know, what is it that we can do to make differences, or is this just a checkbox saying, okay, this is who's there and this is who it affects and so on. So again, that's really exciting. And the other thing is always keeping track of contaminants of emerging concern. If there's anything out there that we need to keep an eye on besides the PFAS and the 1,4-dioxane, we not only have engineers, we have hydrologists, we have sanitarians, we have chemists, so we definitely are on the ball and trying to keep track of everything. So again, just honored to be part of PDEQ at this point. I know there's a lot to learn still on my part, but I'm very thankful for all of the assistance I've gotten through all of the different departments. And the managers themselves within DEQ and the staff, I'm amazed. I kind of see them like these superheroes that want to go out there and save the world, and I'm going to go and find out, we're going to go clean that up, or we're going to have them clean it up. And so it's kind of exciting. I do like that a lot. So again, thank you for allowing me to be here. And do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Escobar. Questions? Colleagues? I do have a question. I was able to go out with our staff to visit the Children's Park air monitoring
one of our
site
sites.
with Mike Draper.
Correct.
And he was talking about all of the different things that those monitoring stations do and where they're located, and that we have some that are remote. I mean, it's really fascinating. But I was asking about because it's a concern throughout the county, throughout the nation, of people that are ready to be trained to be able to take over positions. And so I was concerned, and I think he brought up a concern as well about, the average age of the employee, and that, many in our county and in that specific department are near retirement. It doesn't mean that they're going to retire now, but do we have people coming in, and so are you looking
That's
at
one of
that?
my challenges.
Right.
Because we do have I think Nicole was talking about it earlier today about technical, right? Technical staff and staff that really, we have, especially in this air monitor, I know that Mike wants to retire, and he's been doing this job for so long, and so we need to like plan for succession, and yet they are so busy with their day-to-day job and what they're doing. It's kind of difficult, but we're trying to figure out how we're going to handle this as far as replacing someone like Mike, someone like Judy, if she ever, hopefully never retires out at the INA facility with solid waste. Oh my God, that's going to be, there's just a lot of staff and very specialized. Our data manager, the one for the air monitoring, she has told me too, I really do want to retire in 3 years, Barbara, so you need to kind of figure out, who's going. So I'll just steal Wastewater's, data management people. I'm going to steal all those good people.
And I think there's some legitimate issues with EPA asking for succession plans. Isn't that right? EPA was asking for air monitoring succession plans.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There isn't, that's the staffing that we have. And
Correct.
so I do think that there's other issues that, we need to make sure that this department is being supported, because you do so much in environmental quality and touch so many different areas of our community that are so important.
Yes, that's true. That air quality is definitely one. We also have, challenges with the quality side of air quality or the QA side. Kind of like the laboratory has their laboratory, and then they have a QA section that kind of keeps track of them, audits them, and does all that stuff. PDQ doesn't necessarily have, a position that's actually auditing them, or we're not auditing ourselves internally.
Right.
We're reviewing and reviewing, each other's work and stuff like that, but an actual QA or, QC department, or at least one person that could do that would be great. So again, it's still looking at the staffing. There's definitely some things that we could definitely need and improve, but so who has the pockets, who has the wallets that we can dip into? So,
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Any
thank
other
you.
questions?
Any
Any
other
other
questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Okay. Now we're on Office of Sustainability and Conservation. Thank you. Miss Linda Mayrow.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairs and members of the board. I'm Linda Mayrow. I'm the Director of the Office of Sustainability and Conservation. And as you know, we're a composite office of special project areas. Our mission statement, which is that we work to promote a sustainable and livable community and the conservation of Pima County's natural and cultural resources through the implementation of board-adopted policies that promote the environmental, social, and economic well-being of the region. So that pretty much unites our areas, our special disciplines. We have several areas, program areas, that are guided by board policy and also federal and state mandated compliance requirements depending on funding and permitting. So first of all, I want to thank the board for your continued support for these programs. We've been a department since 2012. And I also want to thank the many departments who work with us, collaborate with us in actually achieving these countywide goals. So I will start with the Conservation Science Division. Sort of the big picture, landscape level conservation that we've been working on for 20 years with the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan and now the Multi-Species Conservation Plan. Both are still being implemented. There are about 250,000 acres in total that we work closely with Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation and the Regional Flood Control District and others to basically do the ecological monitoring and habitat conservation, landscape level conservation to meet our MSCP requirements. So some of our accomplishments this year, we've completed what's called the Cienega Corridor Management Plan. Again, this is a cross-departmental collaboration of about 8,000 acres in the Cienega Creek Valley. through engaging our stakeholders and to satisfy, again, the MSCP requirements concerning these mitigation lands that are used to offset private sector and county development projects that impact the environment. This has been reviewed and approved by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recently. We also have developed and delivered to the service, Fish and Wildlife Service, protocols for species monitoring, as well as climate, land use, land cover, and riparian resources. And we use consultants. We use the National Park Service and the Audubon Society to help us. We only have 4 staff, and 3 are in the field, principally doing the ecological monitoring, but we have over 100 sample plots and transects on the landscape, on the acres that we own and manage, and we need their assistance in doing these, and also some specialized species monitoring that we might do for the pygmy owl that might come back and visit us. So our goals, of course, are to continue to meet the objectives of the 30-year Section 10 permit, MSCP Section 10 permit, to continue to benefit the public and the county. So for the MSCP Section 10 permit, this benefits the county, of course, and the private sector development projects by providing compliance with the Endangered Species Act. Should the pygmy owl be listed again, and there's indication it will be, we have a Section 10 permit that will allow our development projects in the private sector to go forward without any delays. If any of you recall, it was required that there be 2 years of owl surveys before anything could go forward and be developed in the ground, and this permit will allow us to proceed provided we have mitigation lands, which we do. So our accomplishments, we have about 70 projects on private land that were covered by the Section 10 permit, and about 10 ground-disturbing county CIP projects. So again, the goal is to continue to provide the Section 10 permit coverage to the private sector and county projects. We feel it's a successful program and with great benefit to economic development. In cultural resources and historic preservation, our job there is to inventory our conservation lands and manage ancestral Native American sites, historic Spanish colonial, Mexican, and American sites, historic neighborhoods, buildings, and traditional cultural places, and working landscapes, our ranch lands. We are also provide a service to all county departments to ensure compliance with federal and state historic preservation laws and policies as they apply. We've also raised, in terms of accomplishments, this year, we have $736,000 that we've been able to bring in, and this is due to our 9th consecutive year as a certified local government in historic preservation. That has brought in, $46,000 for the Cienega Watershed Survey, and then about $25,000 for a pilot project that the state actually initiated with us to do GIS, to develop a database using GIS to provide compliance, and this is to the Arizona State Historic Preservation Office, so they're actually paying us to assist them in this effort. We also have funding of almost $200,000 from the Arizona Heritage Fund, and this will be used for the Juan Santa Cruz campground rehabilitation in Tucson Mountain Park. We're working in cooperation with Natural Resources Parks and Rec on that. And this is part of the CCC development that is now listed in the National Register of Historic Places. And then Mission Garden, which the county owns, and we have the Friends of Tucson's Birthplace operating it. There's a congressionally directed grant of $500,000 that has just been approved. So other than that, we're working on the Pima County Register of Historic Places database system for heritage resource management, threat assessment, and heritage heritage conservation. In our compliance area, we've completed 276 project reviews with our internal staff, and that's our day-to-day work in county departments as well as working with development services. So our goals are broad. We're assisting others with Teatro Carmen, the Ajo Curly Gymnasium. We're assisting the city of Tucson with their Fort Lowell rehabilitation and their bond program. And then, of course, we're going to be enacting and acting on the grants we've received for Juan Santa Cruz and Mission Gardens and other places. So our goals basically are to, continue to seek additional grant funding, promote the Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area, which the county's been involved with since about 2003, work with our stakeholders toward, I'm calling it History Lives Here, a heritage interpretation master plan for use along our river parks and maybe in collaboration with the Santa Cruz Valley Heritage Area. So that's a future goal. That it'll take a while to get that one done. We're working with many stakeholders on that one, whose stories to tell and how to tell them. Of course, we're working toward the creation of a new historical commission, and we hope to expand our Arizona Site Stewards program, which we use as volunteers to actually visit the archaeological and cultural sites we own, historic properties, to make sure they're not being vandalized, and if they are, how they report back to us and others. In our sustainability programs division, basically our accomplishments were we completed the annual report for fiscal year 21 in the areas of carbon, water, landscapes, materials, and workforce education. But we will also be, we completed the audit you are aware of implementation strategies and the jurisdictional review of best practices. And as we discussed last week, the big goal is to develop a new climate action plan and all the prioritization of big fixes and how to move those forward. So that's in the plan for sustainability. In our water resources unit, basically monitors reports on county use of surface water, groundwater, effluent, and reclaimed water to address drought management, environmental enhancement, water conservation, water reuse, and water asset management. And some of their accomplishments are we produced a report for...
Welcome to WebEx. Press 1 to your meeting.
I believe Chair Bronson has joined us.
Oh, good.
I think. Chair Bronson? Okay. We're just...
Shall I continue?
I'm sorry?
Shall I continue? Shall I continue?
Yes, please go ahead.
My microphone muted. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in the water resources, some of the accomplishments have been this last year, we prepared a water resource options report for the board to how to adapt to climate change and water scarcity that's becoming apparent. We've worked and done some research on the City of Tucson differential rates issue for unincorporated Pima County. We've been participating in basically a drought assessment in Pima County in the Colorado River Basin and what impacts that might have for us. And also, we've worked with the Bureau of Reclamation on the Lower Santa Cruz River Basin study. So our goals are to continue to provide updates and reports to county admin and the board, develop public information on the drought and other issues for our website, and we're developing, again, for the public, a Pima County water fact sheet. What do you need? What does a citizen need to know about water in Pima County? So what additional improvements are we making? I feel we've made real advances in our natural and cultural resource database development and GIS capabilities. This has actually reduced the number, and I don't have a number of projects, but it's reduced significantly the number of projects that come in for review. We've already looked at those. We don't need to look at them again, basically. So that's a really good thing. It makes it a real quick decision. And we're working with development services, I think Carla just left, to ensure that we meet their goals in terms of project turnaround. We continue to work across county departments and refine our processes for interaction. I mean, we're not siloed, and none of the departments we work with are. I really enjoy the collegiality and the collaboration that we enjoy and meeting broader goals. We'll continue to seek grants. We'll continue to refine priorities for the new climate action plan, and we will continue to maintain our Section 10 permit coverage to balance conservation and economic development. So that's my report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions? Supervisor Scott.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Grijalva. Ms. Mayrow, thank you very much for the presentation you made at the last board meeting and some of the information that you're going to be sharing with us after our request during that meeting. Ms. Blackwell, when she was here, referred to the pending revision of the county's comprehensive plan. What will be some of the key roles that your office will play during that, as that process gets underway?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Supervisor Scott. As we participated in Pima Prosper, so the elements on sustainability and historic preservation and natural resource conservation and economic development, we were a team working with Development Services and their consultant in doing so. So we want to make sure there is correspondence going forward between the climate action plan, for example, and what is included in Pima Prosper. So there is a greater clarity, I'll say, in terms of priorities that we might pursue, and as well as our land conservation goals. I mean, I think those have been basically in effect for almost 20 years now, but that doesn't mean that new people coming into the Pima County really understand how this is implemented. So we want to make sure there's good correspondence, again, with board policy and how we move that forward, and just to be consistent year to year to year. And again, that integration, that clarity has to be very much integrated into the new Pima Prospers.
And would that include input from the Water Policy Office?
Yes, of course.
Your office?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Questions? I have a question. So I know that a lot of the lands that were acquired we had bond funding, but I do think that it's something that the county needs to prioritize as far as looking at open land acquisition and setting aside funding to be able to do that. And so I know that our office has asked you, do we have a list of areas? But I also know that we have development sort of, there's this big push to build property and build homes, and I know that we all need that, but there has to be that balance. And so when we have properties that are nearing or right on the edge of some of our protected areas, that's property that we maybe should be looking at as a strategic plan for the county. So I just wanted to put it out there, since you're up here, that I am going to be advocating for setting aside funding specifically for land acquisition in these sensitive areas, because I do think it's important to support the continued conservation plan.
All right. Yeah. Yes, and Madam Chair, Supervisor Grijalva, our department, just to be clear, never managed those funds other than the bond funds for historic preservation. And so, and there's a very stakeholder-oriented process for land acquisition that's still in effect, although it's been, the funds are exhausted, but the Conservation Acquisition Commission still can be reconvened to, again, assist in that process.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how much your office touches with just this small, mighty group of people.
Thank you.
It's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Okay. We are on real property.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to speak about the Real Property Services Department with you today. I'm Jeff Teplitsky. I'm the director of the Real Property Services Department. I've been the director for almost 2 years now. The Real Property Services Department directs and administers real property functions for all Pima County departments and the Flood Control District. And as you may be aware, real property is now its own department as part of Public Works. Within Real Property Services Department are 3 separate divisions, including property appraisal, property acquisitions, and property management. Currently, there are 10 staff members in the department, and just a list of the activities include, and the description include the appraisal of property for acquisition, sale, abandonment, leasing, and licensing of county or district property, acquisition of real property for roads, sewers, parks, flood control projects, and governmental centers. We also prepare right-of-way deeds, easements, and other legal documents. We provide relocation services for constituents affected by property acquisitions as part of these projects as well. Real property, we also serve as a real property management division for Pima County-owned property, and those properties would be, for instance, some that could have been acquired when we purchased a ranch and there was a home on the property. We would end up managing that asset, taking in the calls for repairs and maintenance, occupying them with tenants, things like that. We also, as part of property management, we grant the use of county right-of-way. We also grant the release of easements. We work with telecom leasing and sales, the granting of rights of entry onto county property or district property, the sale of surplus property, and we also are, as I said, the liaison for the county property management as well. We also handle special projects, which fall into varying classifications. But, for instance, here's some special projects that we work on. We work on the DM Accident Potential Zone acquisitions, colloquially known as REPI, which you may have heard. We deal with the treasurer in assisting her in the sale of delinquent tax sale properties. And we also work to try and acquire, as Supervisor Grijalva was speaking about, open space lands through the OSC department as well. And here's some other functions that we also provide that are just day-to-day. We get incoming calls for the research of real estate issues to assist other county departments, constituents that reach out to us that have questions and need help for various reasons. We try and guide them as well. And we also work closely with utility companies, TEP, Southwest Gas, engineering and development companies, and maybe most importantly, we try and be good neighbors to the city of Tucson because our departments overlap in many occasions. I'd like to also give you an idea of some of the recent accomplishments that Real Property has made, which are we've successfully acquired the Teatro Carmen. We successfully selected a developer for the Paradise Falls Loop Adjacent project, and that was through an RFP process. We successfully acquired 7.2 acres of vacant land on Valencia Road, and that would be used for a new library and for a sheriff's substation. We acquired an easement over the Amazon property at Ina and Silverbell to accommodate the wastewater project for the force main, and that was a long and tedious process, but we did get that one done. And we've successfully completed all the acquisitions for the Sunset Road project, and that was some of those acquisitions came from the flood control district, which was helpful in working with us as well. And then finally, another recent accomplishment was the sale of seven telecom locations, generating $4.25 million for the Parks Department. Current challenges to the department include staff retention. I know you hear this all the time, and staff turnover as retirements are pending, pay scale and competition from the private sector, rising costs for appraisals, title reports, and escrow closing costs just as a function of the overheated real estate market. And payment, one of the things that we also do is we pick up some of the costs when we're asked for due diligence items such as title reports or appraisals when projects are not fully realized, but they need that, a department needs that information. So we at many times absorb those costs as well. and that can be challenging. From an office management standpoint, we are on what is known as SharePoint. It's an MS software product, and all of our functions are on SharePoint. We share that website with various people throughout the county. They have access to read it. We have access, obviously, to read and write and do the things that we need to do. And that database allows for easy access to files and information when requests come in from other departments. This electronic file management retention system has been a major improvement for the department, allowing staff and others to find the information with ease. I inherited that when my predecessor left, and it was fully embraced when he left, but we've really find it to be the best way to manage files, where before we were asking folks in offices, do you have this file, do you have this file? Now we know the file is in SharePoint. The goals for the upcoming year is we're in the process of training new hired staff, and we're in the process of trying to hire one more at this moment, and that is in anticipation of staff turnover as retirements are pending. And mostly we're looking to continue the delivery of real estate services in a timely manner, meeting all deadlines as needed. And then finally, in closing, I'd like to reiterate the importance of the Real Property Services Department to the county and Pima County constituents. Most of all, the Real Property Service Department and staff are problem solvers. We have over 150 years of combined real estate experience between senior staff members, and the Real Property Service Department has a high level of experience that serves the county and constituents very well in terms of solving real estate-related issues. And that is my presentation. Thank you, and I can answer any questions which you may have.
Thank you. Questions? Supervisor Scott.
Thank you, Supervisor Grijalva. Mr. Topletsky, thank you very much for your presentation and your commitment to your position. I noted in the recommended budget that we're recommending $770,000 for appraisal services in the coming year, whereas in the last budget we spent $170,000. So it's an increase of $600,000.
That's got to be a typo. I apologize. I did not pick that up. I couldn't spend that much money in a year on appraisals, and if I did, it would be not good practice.
Ms. Lusher, we have saved some money right here.
And I apologize for not picking up on that.
Okay. It was in the, and it might not have been in the actual budget, but it was in that list we get, department-wide top 10 non-personnel expense groups by variance. That's where I saw it.
Right, yeah. And Supervisor Scott, I apologize for that oversight.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Topletsky.
My pleasure.
Any other questions to my colleagues online or here? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your presentation. Okay, we are on Regional Flood Control District. Ms. Shields.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Grijalva and members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm Suzanne Shields, Director of the Regional Flood Control District. Arizona is very unique because we have county flood control districts. It came about because of tremendous flooding that occurred in the 70s, sometimes referred to as the soggy 70s. And it's really been a great benefit, I think, to all the counties, but certainly here in Pima County. It has allowed us to better interact with the Corps of Engineers and other funding agencies and FEMA and other emergency action folks. We added to our name regional. And by regional, we certainly work and have an outreach with all of the municipalities here in Pima County. When it comes to flood control, the structural and the maintenance, we are working and doing projects throughout Pima County. We do a lot of technical studies. I think I'm a planner by nature. I think it's very important that we have up-to-date maps and up-to-date technical information and develop really sound technical policies with which to design and take actions. We're also unique in that really because of the 1983 flood, we as a county took a different approach to floodplain management. It wasn't just about floodplains. It included erosion hazard, looking at those hazards, looking at sediment transport. It looked at trying to keep the upper watersheds in a healthy condition so that we did not get increased downstream flooding, as well as looking at not just structural but also non-structural improvements, such as our riparian habitat protection program and our flood-prone land acquisition program, which was started in 1984. Through FLAP, which is what we call it, we have nearly 17,000 acres of flood-prone land that we've acquired, sometimes, unfortunately, after a flooding, where we help to relocate and move people out, and sometimes it's proactive, knowing that there's an area that needs to be protected, knowing that it has a high hazard, that's where we look to do it. It's also helped us with acquisitions in Cienega Creek and the upper Santa Cruz, where we're protecting the upper watersheds as well as the environmental benefit of the riparian areas. For floodplain management ourselves, we just basically do the unincorporated areas. But we are very active to make sure that what we're doing within the unincorporated areas is compatible with what the emerging incorporated people are going to be doing or where they might be. We work a lot with them closely on future planning activities. That's one reason why we like to do these broad floodplain management plans, so it's very consistent whether you cross the county line or not. Some of the things that we are looking forward in the next year, we of course had the Bighorn fire, and then we had some flooding last year. Fortunately, the flooding was not as bad as our worst estimates, but there's still a lot of sediment and cleanup. We still have some grants that are coming in from FEMA so that we can do some work in the Oro Valley Flood Control Levee, as well as up on Skyline Drive and replacement of a very undersized culvert in that area. We've been working really diligently on getting some additional grants. We never went after that many grants, but we're working very hard to pull in grants, not just for flood control improvements, but things like invasive species control. We work really closely with the NRPR when it comes to management of our open space land, which includes our flat land. So it's very important to us that we look at those type of things. Some of those work on the Bighorn fire has included working with the University of Arizona. We're doing a study to see how the watershed was changed by the fire and how it will change in the future as vegetation comes back. I think it's really important. That was impacted a huge area of the Catalina Mountains, and so it's very important that we're proactive in looking at those type of issues. Some of the other things that we're doing is about a year ago we adopted a watershed-based floodplain management plan, and so we want to look about implementing some of those processes where we can do non-structural floodplain management type of improvements to better the environment. That'll be one area that we will be looking at as we do the, as Carla Blackwell said, as we get into looking at our comprehensive plan. The other issue that we deal with the comprehensive plan is we're the department that reviews for water conservation as part of rezonings and specific plans. So we're going to be looking at if can we improve what we're requiring, can we improve how we go about so that we're doing really smart development in the future when it comes to water conservation. Other things that we are looking at is we're in an area, whether it's not just a Bighorn fire or in the 2006 large flood event that was caused by an extreme weather, we're really looking hard at what climate change may or may not do for us. So we're put together an RFP for a study to look at what changes in vegetation may occur on our watersheds and come up with basically 9 different scenarios. How we would develop a runoff model now, what we might see in the future. Now, we're not going to be using this necessarily for floodplain management, but it'll be really useful to look at our existing infrastructure, our bank protection, our bridges, as well as future things that we might build, and make sure that they meet certain standards. If they don't, what can we do to increase their capacity to carry flow if necessary? So this is something that we're trying to do so that we're a little bit more resilient as a community in looking at these things. As you probably noticed, a major part of my budget is maintenance. Most people don't realize that the rivers were all private. And, in 1978, we became the flood control district. It's taken a long time, but I can finally tell you the major rivers are ours. And so as we've acquired them or done agreements with the different municipalities, we now do the maintenance. That helps with the consistency on what we do. Everything's maintained the same. And so it really is a large part of what we do. The other thing that is a large part of our budget is professional services. I'm a fairly lean department, not too many people. About 60 are budgeted. Right now I have about 49. So we do use contractors to help us with our studies, to work with them. But we also, some things are called contracts that might have been called something else at a different time. For example, we have a contract with the U.S. Geological Survey. They're essential to our operation of the our flood warning system. So some of our contracts are actually contracts with other governmental agencies that help us get our work done in more timely fashion. I work very closely with the University of Arizona as well. I have an IGA with them, which would be considered a contract. I find it very cost-effective to pay a little bit for a professor to oversee students as they're getting their masters or PhDs to do some of the specialized work that we might not be able to do in-house. A challenge for us will be trying to go from, I don't want to say the simple flood control, which was the major river systems and bank protections, but dealing with urban drainage, especially in the older areas. So we're trying to look at ways to incorporate green infrastructure, smaller detention basins spread out at different areas to help reduce the flooding potential in those type of areas. We are also going to be relooking at our critical basin. What is a critical basin? Again, that will be partially because we are going to be looking at what floodings we might have in the future. So we do a number of things besides just issuing floodplain use permits. Like I said, we do a lot of studies. I'm a strong believer in doing these long-term studies so that we can address future needs. We are in a process of upgrading our flood warning system. And by upgrading, it's partially software. It's also partially hardware, which is another item that you see in our budget, in our top 10, if you will. So that we want to get more cameras out there. We want to get better equipment and more sensors out in the area. I say the other area that's a little different is we've begun working with the Corps of Engineers on an in lieu fee program for permitting under the Clean Water Section 404 permit. And through that, both public agencies as well as developers can buy credits from us. And right now, we're developing the Canoa Ranch in lieu fee program, which is we're taking the 10-year and 5-year floodplain terraces and revegetating them, helping farm fields, getting them to join into the Santa Cruz River. And so it's one way to make our open space land work for us. It provides a benefit to the people that need to get the permits and do mitigation. And so we're looking forward to getting that. It's already partially constructed, at least a portion. So are there any questions for me?
Colleagues, questions? Supervisor Scott.
Thank you, Supervisor Grijalva. Ms. Shields, thank you very much for how responsive you have been. A lot of the storm damage that happened from the summer monsoons occurred in District 1, and what we have consistently heard from our constituents who were affected was how much they appreciated not only how responsive and supportive the flood control district staff was, and by the way, also transportation department staff, but also how well you know your jobs and how well you know the areas that are affected. And I want to follow up those thanks with a question, because you mentioned that we're pursuing federal grants. You're calling them anticipated grants, so maybe we don't even need to cross our fingers. It sounds like they're on the way.
Well, we do have 2 grants that are on, where they've been given to us and the money's on the way.
Okay.
The federal government moves sometimes a little slower. We are also looking at all of the new infrastructure type grants that are coming forward to see where we can go on that front too. And so we've gotten some positive feedback from the different congressional offices on some of our projects that we've presented.
Wonderful. And when we find out if we get any of those grants that will help with future flooding in Finger Rock Wash, Cañada del Oro Wash, how will we let residents know about those new protections?
We typically, those type of grants we put into our capital improvement program, and they are actually written into our CIP for next year. And so we do the same kind of outreach that we do with other folks. We've already been talking a lot with the town of Oro Valley and their stormwater utility people. We were real proactive even before the flooding, just when there was the fire, about cleaning out under the bridges and making sure that there was as much capacity as we could, because that is a levee system. So we've already got the design put together for that and been working with them. And then we'll start doing some outreach with the public so that they know what we're planning before we go out there with the heavy equipment. My staff can be a little fast. I know you've noticed that on some of the maintenance. I say, go do that, and they're right out there. Sometimes not always notifying people. But all the same is true of the Finger Rock. Some of those improvements, because it'll be on Skyline, we'll have to do it a lot with utilities as well as working with transportation and businesses and stuff, so there'll be a lot of outreach.
And you've always been great about keeping our office up to speed on all these new developments as well. Our office had a very informative meeting recently with Mr. Sachs and Mr. Shep from your office, and we learned more about green stormwater infrastructure and the plans for doing more of that throughout the county. But in the last sentence of your major departmental issues section, what is first flush retention standard for new development?
Okay. This is where we work real closely with Pima County Environmental Quality. Our stormwater, Pima County is one of the only county actually in Arizona that has its own municipal stormwater ZIPDs permit to make sure our surface waters are clean. And first flush is trying to retain that first wash of water, which might contain the oils and other debris, if you will, that is, whether it's development, but especially commercial type of a development. And so it's actually just a small area where you would retain maybe 6 inches, maybe 9 inches. We've kind of worked in that design for this, what we call the first flush, which we get credit for from the EPA and ADEQ for doing this. But we also see it as an important way to do a certain amount of harvesting of the natural rainfall for vegetation. So we will work a lot with developers to put it in buffer landscaped areas, parking areas where they're landscaping, trying to use it as a watering source as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Okay, we're on to Regional Wastewater Reclamation. Mr. Jenkins.
Good afternoon, Supervisors.
Good afternoon.
So first, I just have to tell you, my name is Jackson Jenkins. I've been the director for the wastewater department for the past almost 12 years. I asked my staff, I think we were supposed to come alone, but I asked if anyone had any spare time, and I only got 2 replies. My deputy director of tech service and engineering is Eric Wiedewelt back there, and the deputy director of the treatment division is Dr. Jeff Pravant back there. So if I need scapegoats, I'm in good shape. So if I could, I just jump into some factoids and information, but I'm here with a simple request for a mere $170 million or so. That's all. So open your wallets and we'll be finished real quick here. So first, our vision. I wanted to mention our vision. It's to be an industry leader in the management and sustainability of the water reclamation cycle and other renewable resources. And a lot of what I'll talk about is that topic of our vision. Our mission, even a little more bold, it's to protect the public health, safety, and the environment by providing quality service, environmental stewardship, and renewable resources. You'll hear that a lot in my conversation. We provide service to over 3/4 of the county's homes and businesses, pretty significant. We maintain over $1.2 billion worth of assets. That includes over 3,500 miles of conveyance pipeline, 2 regional and 5 sub-regional water reclamation facilities. We have over 22, or we take care of 22 pump stations and 33 odor control sites. And Eric back there said, don't forget about our 50 flow meter sites too. So there's a lot of stuff that we're taking care of out there. We treat over 60 million gallons a day of sewage. That's a lot of flow. We produce a high-quality product, the water that comes out the end of the facilities, and it seems to get the lion's share of our conversation. Much of that water is transported through Tucson Water's reclaim system for turf irrigation in the community. But we also use that water for riparian habitat restoration and for recharging the aquifer, for which we get recharge credits, water credits, which are very important, especially in the drought that we continue to talk about. I came from the mining industry before I joined the county about 18 years ago, and I thought mining was a very regulated industry, but I was very surprised at how much regulation we have in wastewater. Lots of permits, lots of criteria that we have to track and monitor because, again, we're dealing with public health as a key function of our job. We operate a state-of-the-art, state-certified laboratory to help make sure we're in compliance, and that lab runs over 49,000 analyses each year based on our needs and our permits. We operate our system 24/365. Every day of the week, every hour of the day, there's people working on the wastewater system. A point that we're very proud of is we have not raised our sewer user fees with the budget submission that's in front of you. That will be our 6th year in a row without raising sewer user fees. And I guarantee you there's no other utility in our community that can say the same thing. Our services are important, and I'm kind of repeating ourselves, but the main role is, again, that we protect the public health. A second one is we protect the environment by recycling our most important commodity of water. The benefits of the water are talked about often, and I always, if anybody wants to have a lot of good information about what that water can and is used for, look up the Sonoran Institute's Living River reports. We've been doing a series of reports since 2013, I believe, and they're all online, and they're just fabulous what's happened with some of the investment that you all have supported to get us where we are today. Biosolids, we don't like talking about the second item, often referred to as number 2 in our business, but biosolids are applied to agriculture land. So they are fertilizer used in our community, and so that's a great thing. Also, we've been participating in more recent times with the University of Arizona on helping sample and analyze sewage to help detect COVID levels in the community. And so I think that's an interesting role that we've been playing, but it fits with what we do. Recently, you should be familiar that we recently completed a biogas cleaning project, and so another renewable resource is in the process of treating sewage, especially on the number 2 side. You generate a dirty process gas that is cleaned and basically converted to methane gas, and we inject it into Southwest Gas Pipeline and sell it as a renewable fuel. So it's a great thing, and it's actually generating a very nice revenue stream for us. So you'll hear more about that in the coming months and years. Some of our capital improvement projects that help the community, we've extended a sewer line out to the southeast to the fairgrounds area. We've extended the sewer line out towards the Raytheon Aerospace Corridor area. We're in the process of extending a force main sewer line out to Continental Ranch. And all those are critical to helping promote economic development and creating jobs in the county. We're committed to seeking efficiencies in all that we do. We provide full services of outstanding quality. Again, while entering into our 6th year without rate increases, and that not only is for user fees, which are the lion's share of the enterprise fund fees we collect, but also our connection fees called the utility fee as well. We have our philosophy of continuous improvement. We look at what we do in the utility in all aspects. And one area we continually review our staffing. We make sure we have appropriate personnel resources placed where we need them. And in those efforts and in training and in just the spirit and culture of the department, over the past 5 years, we've reduced 50 positions in the department. This year, we're requesting, we have 406 right now, and we're requesting 401 in next year's budget, a reduction of 5. And I know there's a typo on one of the documents. It said 402, but it is 401. So that's an area we always look at. We've, having amazing expertise of people that we have, we do get to focus on technology as another avenue of helping us improve our efficiencies and our performance and our costs and our carbon footprint of the business. And we have, in fact, Dr. Jeff Pravat leads a lot of that effort, and we're evaluating some new biology for the main treatment function in a wastewater plant is nutrient removal, and it's a very energy intensive process. But there's some new biology that, it's not new biology, it's been around a long time, but it's finding ways to be fit into a wastewater treatment facility that has the potential to save a lot of energy and reduce our carbon footprint and hopefully costs, but That's something that we're working on right now and evaluating if we can manage to use it. We also have a project for next year that we're hoping to do, and it's a solar dryer for our biosolids. And we haul about 10 trucks, 10 dump trucks, large trailer dump trucks out to the farm fields every day with a Class B biosolid. And if we're able to get this solar drying project in place, we could reduce that, because we haul a lot of water. It's about a 20% cake that we haul out there. And if we can use solar dryer, we can get that to maybe 80, 85%, and only haul 2 or 3 trucks out there. And it would become a Class A product, which opens up even more markets for places to take our biosolids. So it's been a while ago, but we talked to the vintners in Cienega and Elgin area, and they were interested in maybe doing something, but we'll keep our ears open for possibilities. We also, another technology on our conveyance side is smart covers. You know, we have the 3,500 miles of pipeline and 75,000 manholes, and what's happening underground. You know, it's easy if you work for DOT, you can see everything in front of you. You know, ours, I'm just kidding. It's a little bit more challenging with wastewater utilities, so we have a lot of closed circuit television inspection, and we do a number of things, but recently they've come out with smart covers that the manhole covers over the many manholes we have. They have all kind of different sensors. They can measure flow and tell you if you're having any issue with high flow, low flow. They have odor detection, so you can tell what type of gases are in your sewer, just a whole slew of things, and we're starting to use those. And all of this stuff, a software that we're using is Power BI, which pulls all of the county databases where information is stored or where data is stored. And we've been using it to create real-time reports that our frontline staff use to make day-to-day decisions. And it's proven to be quite powerful, and we're looking to continue to grow that and develop that effort. So I talked enough. I just wanted to tell you that the main part of the $170-ish million that I'm here asking for, we mostly in the department mostly talk about our operations and maintenance budget, which is a little over 91 million of the 170. The rest is debt service and the principal and interest that we owe. But the 91.5 million is about a $5 million increase from last year's budget request. I'm sorry, this current fiscal year's budget request. And I just wanted to tell you a few of the items. The biggest increase of that $5 million is for chemicals. We use a lot of chemicals in the processing of wastewater. It went up about $1.3 million, which is about a 34% increase, and almost exclusively tied to inflation increases of those materials. Another one is the personnel cost. We're people-oriented business. That is our largest single O&M item, is personnel, wages and benefits. That's going to go up. Right now it's gone up $1.1 million because of the increase that was given the past October. And it's a great thing, so we're happy about that, but it's just something we have to deal with in the cost of our business. We had about 0.9, almost a million, but 0.9 million was for repair and maintenance items, again, mostly tied. That was about a 10% increase, all inflationary. Then we had energy went up about 0.7 million, about 11%, and that one, it was not as much inflation cost of energy as much as 2 new processes that we put in place in the treatment division, and one of those being the biogas cleaning project. It makes way more revenue than it costs to run it, so it's a good thing, but it adds cost to our business. And then the other one was a nutrient remote recovery system that we also added that adds cost in operation, but it saves us money in other avenues that makes it worthwhile to do. That's it. I'll open it up to questions if you have any.
Well, I want to thank you for the tour of Tres Rios. It was fascinating. If you have not had an opportunity to go, I learned a lot that I don't know that I would have been able to understand as well if I didn't. You didn't walk me around and explain, like, this is where all of these things are. One of the things that I think is great is the biofuel, and that, we're selling that to Southwest Gas. Has there been any thought to running the the wastewater facility off of that instead of selling it.
So I'm glad we rehearsed this question.
I totally didn't, I
We didn't.
Okay, we
But
didn't.
I'm going to tell you, Supervisor Grijalva and her staff, they went everywhere in a wastewater plant, so they know all kind of dirty secrets.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
So here's an interesting thing, and we would love a recommendation, but we currently, the biogas is like equivalent to 5, 6, 7, 8% of our energy need. So it's a very small percentage. So we couldn't run it off there. But that amount, we buy that gas on the commercial market from Southwest Gas, because selling our biogas, a renewable fuel, is we sell it for more than we buy the gas. So it makes revenue for us by using commercial gas. We could use our own gas, but it's, we like the extra revenue coming in, but that gas we buy shows up as part of our carbon footprint. So again, it's where are our priorities, and so is it okay to spend more money, ultimately by using our own gas, or is it better to buy a cheaper commercial fuel? So those are discussions we're going to be having with the board.
I have staff that's very interested in it, so they've done all their research on different treatment facilities that are using entirely their biogas, like in Brazil and other places. And so I'm sure we'll be in touch. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Scott.
Thank you, Supervisor Grijalva. And I want to remind you that the District 1 staff went everywhere on our tour as well. And
I think you were there before us.
We were.
Yes.
We were. But I want to thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for affirming on that visit and today on a couple of occasions what our wives and girlfriends and pretty much every other woman in the world knows, which is what made us laugh when we were little boys, still makes us laugh when we're supposedly grown men. Supposedly. But on a more serious note, wanted to ask before I ask that question, the biggest variance in the budget from last year to this year is what's known as depreciation expense. And there is more than $4 million more being budgeted for that this year than last year. What is depreciation expense? I mean, how do you define that, and why does the cost of it keep going up?
I'm going to say this as carefully as I can, but I'm going to tell you the department does not talk about depreciation. It's a financial criteria for balance sheets and income reporting, and we don't use depreciation. I don't write a check to anybody for depreciation. So it's more of a financial reporting value, and so I would prefer to have finance answer that question. And Michelle back there or somebody could do that if they would like.
Michelle said yesterday she doesn't like to talk in front of groups, so. But now you're making her.
I am.
Actually, I am going to pass that off to Andy.
Well done.
So as far as the depreciation goes, if they add new capital assets to their overall asset balance, and we start depreciating those new assets, that's what would add additional depreciation expense over the previous year. So if they have added new infrastructure as far as new additions to plants or additions to the conveyance system, as those new assets are added and we start depreciating them in the subsequent years, you'll see an increase in the amount of depreciation expense that we realize as we move forward. So as their balance of assets grows, each year the depreciation expense will grow unless larger assets become fully depreciated and then fall off of the depreciation expense total. So hopefully that makes sense.
It did. It did. Thank you very much.
And our capital for next year request was $54 million. That's the capital request that was out previously.
The only other thing I wanted to ask, and it really has more to do from a leadership perspective, how did you come up with the 6 pillars for your organization?
6 pillars, we've had a lot of, we have a very dynamic group of people involved in our business, and we have weekly meetings and tremendous amount of monthly meetings, and we talk about KPIs. I used those pillars previously in my mining career. We've talked about them in wastewater. We've adjusted them a little to fit the utility needs. And basically, those are what we believe are the core components of tracking our business to make sure, our own report card, what classes are we taking? Well, our 6 pillars are our report card of how we're doing, financial wherewithal. That's a big one. Safety is another tremendous one. We're big on safety because safety is probably one of the only ways you can really show your staff you care about them is if you care about their safety. So we go in fact, we just had a really big meeting on that just last week with senior management, and I think it was a very good meeting. But safety is an important one. Regulatory compliance, I already talked about. Sustainability, and we're all about renewable resources and that type of thing. The most important one, though, is people. And, you've heard everybody talk about, recruitment and retention and all those issues. We're right in there with that, but we do as much as we can to invest in our people, and as much as you can do succession planning in the county and as much training as you can give people. We try to make it a very enjoyable place to work, and I think we have a lot of success in that arena.
Well, that is clear. And along those lines, Doctor, is Belinda Felix still your favorite employee? All right. I just had to check. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. All right, we're on Fleet Services. Director Ochotorena.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Ray Ochotorena. I am the Director of the Fleet Services Department. Thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of the Fleet Services Department. Fleet Services is an internal services fund whose operational costs are recovered through monthly transportation charges to county departments. The monthly charge is an aggregate of repair and maintenance, overhead, insurance, and vehicle replacement costs. The core services provided by the Fleet Services Department include the repair and maintenance of approximately 1,500 county vehicles and equipment, management of 9 county fuel stations, acquisition and disposition of county vehicles, upfitting of county vehicles with emergency equipment, the telematics and county driver authorization programs are also core services provided. On average, the county drives 13 million miles annually. Fleet Service will process approximately 600 work orders to ensure the county fleet is efficient and safe. Technicians require a wide range of technical knowledge to service the diverse composition of the county fleet. We work on from electric vehicles to diesel off-road heavy equipment. I'm proud to say as of today we've integrated 101 electric vehicles into the county fleet, replacing internal combustion engines. Fleet Services manages the operations of 9 county fuel stations throughout Pima County. On average, we consume 1.4 million gallons of unleaded and 225,000 gallons of diesel fuel. The recommended fiscal year 23 fuel budget is $5.7 million, and that's up $3.1 million from the fiscal year 22 adopted budget. And you guys are all aware why we've had to forecast so high or budget so high. As a matter of fact, from fiscal year 22, we are forecasting an increase to $3.9 million for fuel. I am recommending the replacement of 158 vehicles with a replacement budget of $6.7 million. And the funny thing there is in the current environment, more than likely we'll be lucky to get 30% of those vehicles just because of the semiconductor chip supply issues that are going on. I am happy to communicate the following fiscal year 22 achievements. So renovation of the Ina Road and Ahaway fuel stations, which include EV charging stations, on track to meet the goal of replacing 120 internal combustion engines this fiscal year with electric vehicles, and that's 3 years ahead of the 2025 SAPCO Go, which is a big deal. We met our telematics program goal of installing GPS units in all county-approved vehicles, and we've implemented an automotive technology internship program with JTED and Community Workforce Development. We're really excited to get that kicked off. We start Monday with 2 students from Community Workforce Development, and then June 7th, we have 3 students from JTED. And we've also maintained our Automotive Service Excellence Blue Seal certification in fiscal year 22. And what that means is we have to have at least 75% of our technicians have ASC certifications in repair and diagnostics. Fiscal year 23 challenges will continue to be in the areas of fuel management and supply chain issues. So as you all know, fuel costs over the past 12 months have increased significantly. In February of 2021, Pima County was paying $1.84 a gallon for unleaded. Yesterday, the cost was $4.04 a gallon. We monitor fuel costs and inventories daily. We subscribe to OPIS, which is an oil price information service to track commodity pricing as well as market trends. Just so you all know, in the event of a major fuel emergency, Pima County would evoke our emergency fuel plan, which basically goes into a rationing system. The other issues, supply chain issues have increased. The lead time receiving some parts needed for the repair and maintenance. Fiscal year vehicle replacements have also been severely impacted due to the semiconductor chip shortage. We're projecting to receive 36 of the 98 vehicles ordered by this fiscal year. So fiscal year 22, we order 98 vehicles. We're going to get 36. All of them will still be on order, but they just won't be here by fiscal year. And so we may get them in July. We may get them in August. What that does is creates a shift in budget authority for the funding. So it's something we have to work through with finance. This is the second consecutive year where we've had this same problem. In fiscal year 23, Fleet Services will continue to drive the electrification of the county fleet, idle reduction, and right-sizing to improve efficiencies and reduce carbon emissions. Fleet Services has in place 14 key performance indicators that are reviewed monthly in support of our mission statement to provide a customer-focused fleet management function dedicated to providing efficient and effective fleet services to Pima County. Lastly, I would like to recognize the dedication of the entire Fleet Services staff that has made it possible for all county departments to meet their transportation needs during the pandemic. Telecommunicating not being an option for Fleet Services staff, the team will always step up to staff often worked at reduced levels due to illness. However, the team always stepped up to meet the challenge of keeping county vehicles and equipment in service. And that's what I have for you guys. Any questions?
Thank you. I was glad Supervisor Hines walked in when Supervisor Christie walked out, because I'm like, I don't have a quorum here for like a minute. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
You answered, so the total number of vehicles that are electric are 101, or you added?
We have 101 currently.
Currently, okay. And then are you going to be looking at as many of those vehicles as you can, as we purchase, as many electric as you can, just because the price of fuel is so high? It's just...
Yeah, so over the last 3 years, we averaged 20 to 30 electric vehicle purchases.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, the purchase of internal combustion engines or fossil fuel vehicles is a very last resort. So if there's not an electric vehicle available, we'll go and look at a hybrid. Okay. Or a plug-in hybrid. And again, this year, hopefully, for the first time, we're going to get some F-150 electric trucks. Yeah. And we should be getting at least one in within the next few weeks. So we're excited about that.
Well, we're hoping that also some of the infrastructure, the conversation about making sure we have electric infrastructure all over is going to make it easier, because that's been one of the issues with some of our bigger vehicles like trucks and buses and those kind of things, is that you don't have anywhere to plug them in once you get to a certain point. So
yeah, so currently I believe we have at least 90 chargers available. But I do know the Facilities Management Department is aggressively looking at adding a lot more, especially since they're aware that we are going to start receiving trucks. And as far as the composition of the county fleet, trucks is the biggest, right, or the largest count of vehicles we have. So yeah. Okay. They'll have the largest impact.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you mind terribly if we took like a quick 5-minute, just a little break? Okay, we'll be right back. 5 minutes. Thank you. no, I know. Okay, thank you. And now we save the best for last. We are on the very last department of 2 days, transportation.
Yes.
Director Olivares.
Thank you very much.
And it's not even alpha order. I don't understand how that works out. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Supervisor Grijalva, Chair Bronson, and members of the board. I am Ana Olivares, and I'm the Transportation Director, and I am happy to provide you the very last budget presentation for fiscal year 23. And I'm going to take a little moment, since this is also my last presentation to you, to thank the board and the county for allowing me to come join your team 16 years ago. It has been a great ride. And then I thank you for the opportunity to be director and lead the Department of Transportation these last 4 years. And your support during that time has been wonderful for all of you. And I want to assure you that the department is left in good hands. Catherine Skinner, back there, as your interim director as soon as I leave, so everything is good with the department. The Department of Transportation manages over 2,200 miles of roadway right-of-way, and we work to provide an efficient and safe travel options for all our county residents. Our proposed fiscal year 23 budget will provide us the resources to continue doing what we have been doing every year, and that is responding to all our maintenance and traffic service requests in a timely manner, and being prepared for storm response during the monsoon season. Our teams have already been meeting to be prepared for that event. And, of course, to continue our robust pavement repair and preservation program. As you all know, this year we budgeted $85 million, and we're doing a little bit more than that due to the increasing costs. And next year we're going to have over $66 million for the pavement repair program. And that is all thank you to the Board of Supervisors, PAYGO funding the repair program, along with our funding that we have from the Transportation Department. It's been a great program for us, so we're very happy with that. Also in 23, as part of our CIP, we will be finishing the 1997 bond program. Kolb Road is our last project for the 1997 bond program, and it'll finish in early next fiscal year. The other two big projects for our CIP program that we have coming, they're non-bond. It is the completion of Houghton Road from I-10 down to Andrada Polytech and Vale High Schools, and we're also going to start Sunset Road from I-10 to River. Now, as a project, we're in conjunction with ADOT. ADOT will do the I-10 widening from Minot to Ruthroth, and we will combine our Sunset Road project with them. So that will be a great addition to that area, too. In fiscal year 23, the department is going to continue with its technology-based vision and take advantage of technological advancements to optimize our current system performance and travel equity. We're going to also build on the success of the 10-year pavement preservation program. We have a Street Saver program that helped us analyze our pavement and prepare us for our budget for the next 10 years. That has been great for us to budget our funding. As we move forward, we want to do the same thing for all of our assets, for our traffic signal poles, for our lighting, for our guardrail, and for our curb and signs. We want to make sure we have a 10, 15, 20-year program so that we can cost it out and make sure we have enough funding for that as we move forward. So that is something that we'll be working on this next year. So next year's budget, we will have some of that information. And that is all I have for you today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions? Colleagues, Supervisor Scott.
Supervisor Grijalva, thank you. And Ms. Olivares, thank you not just for the last 16 years of service to the county, but I feel really fortunate to have worked with you for the last year and a half as the District 1 supervisor. We get a lot of calls about roads, and I think there is not a week that's gone by that we haven't had to be in contact with you or Ms. Skinner or somebody else on your wonderful team multiple times during the week. And you're always extraordinarily responsive and helpful and supportive, and forever grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wanted to ask, with regard to the section of the budget book that talks about department-wide top 10 non-personnel expense groups by variance.
Yes.
We are putting an additional $1.5 million next year into R&M grounds and landscaping as compared to what was budgeted this year in that same category. What is R&M, grounds and landscaping, and why are we spending $1.5 million more on it?
Thank you, Supervisor Scott, Supervisor Grijalva. So the R&M grounds landscaping, that is where we have our contract maintenance. So we have contract for sweeping, we have contracting for guardrail work, and for vegetation for our our landscape medians that we have on CIPs. So our budget for the contracts runs out of that budget. But this year, this past year, we projected less revenues because of the COVID, so we got more than we anticipated. So we have a little bit in the fund balance. We're moving that forward to next year. As we focus on our payment preservation program, some of the other items that we have not received as much attention. So we want to be able to contract out some of our either shoulder repair or our curb repair or our sidewalk repair. So we put some funding in there to be able to contract that work out in this next fiscal year 23 and try to catch up with some of those assets that we haven't been able to catch up with.
That actually, thank you, and that actually sets the stage for the second question that I had, which is under major departmental issues. The last sentence says, due to the prioritization of road pavement repair, there are other roadway network needs that will be deferred, such as bridges, signals, signs, striping, shoulder repair, cattle guard, and guardrail maintenance, et cetera. Deferred until when, and how are we going to be addressing those issues moving forward?
So Supervisor Scott, Supervisor Grijalva, as I mentioned earlier, as part of our 30-year plan or 30-year lookout for our funding, that's part of that. We want to make sure and establish how much it will cost to maintain a sidewalk, repair it and maintain it for so many years, just like we do with our payment management program. So we're deferring them as funding comes available. As you know, for the last 3.5, 4 years, every available dollar we had, and then along with the pay-go, we put into the pavement repair. As we catch up, as you know, by the end of this year, our average payment condition index will be at 71. End of next year, it'll be 76. So we've been able to catch up with our pavement. Doing so, we're also been able to catch up with our pothole service requests. We don't get as many anymore, and our staff is able to keep up. So as we manage that, now we can put some of the revenue that we are getting and put that towards the other assets that have been deferred. And that's part of next year's plan. That's part of the additional $1.5 million in our contract dollar amount. Any additional revenue that comes in as projected higher revenues, we want to start putting that into those assets that we have deferred. Yes.
Thank you. And then you made reference to the pavement condition index, and that's referenced in the significant changes section of the budget document. But the previous board, in its last fiscal year, put additional funds into pavement preservation through the use of certificates of participation. This board has done so as well. So aren't we going to reach that pavement condition index of 80 by 2029?
Pretty close, yes. It'll be that.
It says 2030 there, and I thought we had.
Yeah, we'll be at 79.5 by that point. So,
right.
you know, we can round it up.
Let's round it up.
Yes, we'll round it up.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Grijalva.
Madam
Ms. Oliver.
Chair.
Okay.
Madam
Supervisor Chris G., then Supervisor, why am I blanking? Supervisor Christie. Go ahead.
District 4, as you know, we work very closely together, had a lot of issues with road repair, but it seems in the last, 6 months, 9 months, that those complaints and those calls have diminished rapidly, and I think this is an obvious realization that the PAYGO program is working, plus the responsiveness of your department, which I echo Supervisor Scott's comments about how responsive and helpful you and your staff have always been. And it is true that the number one issue that I had to deal with as the new supervisor, and even into my second term, was road repair. That has, as I said, diminished drastically. And again, it's to the programs that we're implementing to fix our roads, for which I'm very grateful and thankful. But now, the next rising complaint that seems to be coming up on the horizon, almost to the level of the road repair issue, is trash. Yes. And you are aware, obviously, so we've had numerous discussions on this as well. Is there any opportunity in the budget at some point to buttonhole money for trash pickup, to either send it out to another company or to an agency or something that we can address this? Because this, I think, is going to be the new road repair complaint. It's the trash along our roadways and freeways and circulators and things of this nature. Is there a possibility that we can budget for this on a regular basis rather than just like once or twice a year, whenever prisoners are available?
Yeah, so Supervisor Christie, Supervisor Grijalva, thank you for that question. It has become an issue, especially during COVID, for not only Pima County DOT, but if you've seen the state DOT and the City of Tucson Transportation Department, because we've all relied on Department of Corrections or adult probation programs for that staff to come and pick up the trash when it's when we get a service request, we send it to them. We have a contract with them, with Department of Corrections and Adult Probation. In the summertime, we've used the summer youth workers that have come. They also did a lot of the trash pickup. And so we have that, and not to mention our Adopt a Road volunteers. They're wonderful. They adopt a roadway. They go out 3 times a year to pick up litter, and that's what, because it's not that it's a high priority, but in regards to all the other safety maintenance features we have to take care of, those take the priority of our staff. So just like the deferred maintenance that we have, as soon as funding becomes available and things get under control, then we'll have funding available to take care of the less critical items. So I think that as soon as we get all our other assets, the curb, the shoulder repairs, the sidewalk that we need to repair, the bridges that need to be repaired, as soon as we get a lot of those higher priority maintenance issues under control, we'll be able to start carving out some funding for some lower priority items.
So, Madam Supervisor, what's the plan B, or what do we do in the meantime?
So in the meantime, for areas that we do, we're really reaching out to all our adopt our roadways. Maybe they can do more times in a year. We can do that. The areas that are not adopted, we contact groups to make sure, see if they want to offer to do that. The Department of Corrections is slowly coming back. They just have a backlog from all the other agencies to do that. And in really bad areas, at times, we have been able to pull away, if it's not monsoon season, if it's not a storm season, some of our maintenance workers to come in for the day and do some repair. But we can't afford to have them do that on a continuous basis, especially during the summertime, during the monsoon or the winter. We have to take them actually away from their pothole patching to be ready to respond to the storm, and then do cleanup of the storm. Because we get the roads open, but then there's cleanup that needs to be done, and that takes time to come back and do that.
Madam Supervisor, the other issue that's connected with all this, is, particularly in District 4, is we have so many different jurisdictions. We have the City of Tucson, we have Pima County, we have ADOT, we have Park Service, we have state land, and all of them are subject to, gathering of trash. And one of the frustrating things that our constituents are facing is, who do they contact? How do they file a complaint or register a complaint with all these various agencies that are spread out throughout the whole district? What is our Department of Transportation doing to work with these other entities to try to address this trash issue in a cohesive basis?
So when we receive a service request for another entity, we make sure and we share it with them, of course. We have the C-Click Fix option that we have, and I know the City of Tucson has the same, and that is actually automated. If you use your phone and your app, it's a GPS located, and it actually will go to the correct agency. Not every agency has that, but both of us do, and that helps a lot. But our staff is well aware who to contact at each of these locations. So if we get a request that's for ADOT, for the City of Tucson, we know who to contact and send them to, and then we ask them to make sure and let us know when things have been taken care of.
So there is communication and some sort of collaboration on the
yes.
issues. Okay.
Yes, there is.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hines.
Thank you. And this is not specific to your department, so okay. So just in hearing, sometimes remotely, sometimes here in person, a common theme from pretty much every department, division head, recruitment, retention of staff is a huge problem.
Yes.
And I think maybe we can talk about this at the next meeting, but it might be a reasonable idea for us to look at holding some of those folks harmless that are making $25 an hour or less, meaning from cost of living, in terms of cost of living increases, which means instead of the proposed, I think 5%, making it like 8.5%. I know it would cost us a little bit more, but I think it would help a lot with what we're hearing from just across the board. So something, at least for the folks that are at those lower levels, we could maybe look at that. And I've asked staff to take a look at it so that we can discuss it next time.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Director Olivares? All right, and if we don't see you, happy retirement.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Yes, Supervisor
May you
Christie.
always love the smell of fresh asphalt in the morning.
I always do, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that was our last department, and I'm going to turn it over to County Administrator Lesher.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Grijalva. Just a couple of housekeeping notes, and I'll just note that I think a wonderful byproduct of these 2 days is that you as the board get an opportunity to actually see and hear from each and every one of our directors, and I hope you realize what an extraordinary group of people make up that bunch of directors. So you've got a lot of talent here, and we are greatly appreciative to all of them. So it's always fun to get this 2-day review with each of them. There have been some questions asked in this last day or so that will be need to be responded to before the budget comes up, and I know that some memos are even coming out today. We've also made note of a variety of reports that you have asked to receive quarterly, monthly, and so that will start, and you'll be getting those regularly. Excuse me. The last item, I think, is simply this is your budget, and it is designed to find a way to provide you with the board the information you need to be able to make decisions about the budget. So what we are going to be looking at, first of all, is with your permission and asking to come back to the board in, say, December, January of this year, and get some broad policy direction from the board at that time before we begin to build the budget. You know, what are themes you'd like to see addressed? What's the sense of the tax rate, salary increases, et cetera, so that we have that, and the finance department has all of that information as we roll into the year. Another part of that, again, is that we've heard loud and clear about continuing to provide regular reports and updates so that you all see where we are with the budget and maybe a snapshot, a pretty clear perspective, and in particularly as it relates to the fund balance as we go through that through the year. So those will be coming. And then finally, I'll just be in touch with, I hope each of your offices or you to please get any feedback you have about this 2-day process. Again, it's your budget, and we're trying to find ways to make sure that you get the information you need to make the decisions you need to make about a budget on behalf of the people of Pima County. So if this is a good format, we'd like to hear that. If there are other suggestions, ideas, thoughts you'd have about how you'd like it presented next year or better ways to get you the information, we'd sure love to hear it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any comments for County Administrator Lesher at this point? All right, do we have anyone for call to the public?
Supervisor Grijalva, no, we do not.
Okay, well then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.